그러고 보면 난 너를 만나 참 많이 변했어. 꿈이 생기고 네가 가진 꿈도 이뤄주고 싶었어. 네 그러려면 이 바보야 진짜 아니야. 아직도 나를 그렇게 몰라. 너를 가진 사람 나밖에 없는데 제발 나를 떠나가지 마.
Hello and welcome to another video. I usually don't post public voiceover videos anymore, but this topic specifically needed to be done in a voiceover format. So here you go. Just a reminder that this is a theory/analysis video. Every single song and album, it doesn't matter from which artist, it's art, and it's always on the viewers to interpret it the way they want and theorize what they actually see in the art that is presented to them. And at the end of the day, this is a taekook video, so the real target audience are taekookers. So if you're a taekooker, welcome, thanks for being here. If you're not a taekooker, be mindful that this is a space for taekookers, so you're not really allowed to complain. A lot of people would argue that Taehyung hadn't actually written or produced the music videos or the song itself. So why would we even try to make it about his personal life? That's a great question. It's because Taehyung himself over and over kept repeating that this album is about his personal life, who he is, and it actually expresses him, Kim Taehyung.
저를 잘 나타낸 것 같아요. 김태형이고 이런 거 좋아하고 이런 거. 레이오버? 김태형. 저를 표현한 곡이기 때문에
제가 원하는 분위기가 잘 나타나고 잘 얘기를 한 게 잘 이루어졌습니다. 동굴로 갈 거예요. 동굴에서 이제 런미어겐을 찍을 건데 뭔가 색다른 제가 원해하고 추구했던 방향성으로 아미들에게 들려드릴 수 있어서 너무 좋고 기분 좋고.
Actually, that is one of the reasons Taehyung also used his own dog, Yeontan, on the cover and even in the music video. He also put a lot of Easter eggs that we can see in his real life as well. For example, in one of his music videos, we can see an art craft from Alexander Calder, who is one of Taehyung's favorite artists, and he actually keeps some of the craft in his own real house as well. He actually explained that he has been working on these songs for years, and at first he wrote the songs himself in gibberish, but then he decided to get songs from other people and fell in love with the lyric they presented to him. He also said that he chose the new producer Min Hee-jin because he wanted to show a specific side of himself, and he was very pleased with the way that she ended up portraying him in these music videos. In other words, even if he didn't write the songs, he chose the ones that described him, and even if he didn't direct or produce the music videos himself, he was heavily involved, and they were made in a way to portray him the way he wanted to be portrayed. He actually said that from the start he made sure to make a music video for every single song because he could properly show us the kind of visual he had while he was working on these songs. He said that he started working on the album since 2 or 3 years ago. I went back and checked to see when exactly it started. And even though I could say that it could have started at the end of 2019, he actually started telling us about it on early 2020. The reason he didn't start earlier was because Taeyeon didn't feel confident about making songs himself. This is actually in a video from 2019 that was released on 2020. In the video, Taeyeon ends up showing Jungkook one of his unreleased songs, and Jungkook kept encouraging him to start making songs himself because he says that he's actually very good at it. But Taeyang says no, no, and he feels too shy to actually try. But later on, he mentioned that because he was told to do that, he actually picked himself up and started making and producing his own songs. So on 2020, he starts seriously working on them, and originally they were supposed to be 8 tracks, not 5. It was supposed to come in a mixtape format, not in an album, but then he changed his mind and wanted to put all of them in an album instead. But he also mentioned that he had to remove some of the songs because of the agency. He actually showed us a part of some of the songs he couldn't release and said that he doesn't want to listen to the agency. It's not even the first time the agency stops him from releasing certain songs. Just a few years ago, they stopped him from releasing a Christmas song with Jimin because in their opinion, it was a bit weird to sing a love song with another man. So Taeyang ended up not releasing it, ever. So before starting this analysis, I need you to understand that we didn't get 3 of the tracks that were originally supposed to be part of this album, along with the music videos that were supposed to come along with them. So there is a very big possibility that there are things that we're not going to understand in this analysis or in this storyline. Maybe the ending, maybe the start, or maybe in the middle, there are going to be things that we didn't get. But for now, let's focus on the songs we got and go through them one by one and explain everything you might have missed. Starting from the name of the album, Layover. As you know, Layover is a period of rest or waiting before a further stage in journey. For example, if you take some time from getting off from a plane and resting until you have to catch your next flight, that's the period of time that we call layover. Taeyang expressed it as the time we get to know him from seeing him as BTS member V until we get to see him again as a part of BTS in their next journey. Or the time he's taking for himself to actually understand himself from the person he used to be to the person he wants to be. The album came in 3 different colors, 3 different boxes. One was purple, one was green, as you know they are complementary colors, one was blue, and you might be asking, where is the red one? Where is blue's complementary color? And as taekookers, we know that purple and green, red and blue, are the colors Taeyang and Jungkook wear together all the time. So if you're asking where is the red part, ask Jungkook and his new single 7. When the album came out, we were told that we needed to listen to the songs in a certain order. They released the songs in a different order, but the way we needed to listen to them to understand the storyline was from Rainy Days, Blue, Love Me Again, Slow Dancing, and in the end, For Us. I want to start with the lyric and the concept first, and then pay attention to what we got in the music videos, because those seem to be completely different concepts, and I want to focus on them one by one. Let's start our analysis with Rainy Days and then go one by one to the different songs in the same order that we were told we needed to listen to them. The concept of thinking of a lover on a rainy day is actually something we've already seen in another song from a BTS member, which Was actually made in the same timeline that Taeyang started working on his own album. Still With You from Jungkook also started by us listening to the sound of the rain. If you look at the lyric of Still With You, it talks about someone that is up at night, alone with just the sound of the AC, thinking of the person he used to laugh and cry with, someone he wants to see again and tell them that he misses them. It also mentions dancing alone in the rain, about the moon crying alone, and about the stars. All these key words that I'm telling you about are the things I'm going to mention further on the other 5 tracks of Layover. Rainy Day starts with thinking about a lover on a rainy day and wishing to go back to them. It speaks about waiting for someone's text or call, being alone and hoping to go back to the moment they were still together. And then he asks, "Do you remember when I used to make you laugh the most?" And then asks if they can start over again and be together. And then he says that he misses this person. So the theme is the same as Still With You. The keywords are also in there. But it's important to note that Still With You is actually a fan song. Jungkook produced it, and he said that he did it because he missed the fans after the pandemic actually came up. But you have to admit that it's interesting how well you can put these songs together and how similar and matching they can be. When you are alone, you are allowed to miss more than one person. That's what loneliness means anyway. It means not having people around, feeling lonely. So even if he made it for ARMY, it was about him being alone, so he could have missed other people too. And it's not really that strange to think that Taeyang might have matched his song to the same way Jungkook did. So moving on from Rainy Days, we're gonna get to Blue. Once we get to Blue, I actually get the vibe of blue and gray. It talks about trying to give everything to someone. It mentions green, yellow, red, and blue. As you know, red, blue, and yellow are primary colors. And he's saying that not only he wants to give all the primary colors to this person, he also wants to give them green. So, in other words, he's saying that I want to give you all the world, but even if I do that, you're still going to be blue. And blue is the color that represents sadness and depression. It's also the color Taeyang used for his blue and gray to show his burnout throughout 2017 and 2018. His burnout in 2018 was actually brought up on Switch It Up with Yoongi. The reason I'm mentioning 2017 is because some of the things they mentioned for their burnout happened on 2017, not 2018. Most well-known taekook theories is that on 2017, taekook had a break and it was also the separation year. It meant that because of their job and agency, they were separated from each other, and there were also some breaks. On 2018, they got closer to each other because they believed that the pressure over their company and their job would be lifted anyway after they disband. But in the end, they decided to stay together as a team and continue supporting each other. They said that the biggest reason behind their thinking process of disbanding was how tired and hopeless they felt. So whoever Blue is about must be about someone who also felt very depressed and burnt out, because blue is the same word Taeyang used in blue and gray to represent sadness and burnt out and being depressed. I can't help bring up the fact that 2017 and 2018 were also very difficult for Jungkook. They actually brought it up themselves too in the same interview with Yoongi. Yoongi actually ended up sending them both a supportive letter, and Taeyang said that after that letter, both him and Jungkook actually felt more encouraged to keep going. Their burnout was so bad that Taeyang said that he just wanted to get sick, just to have an excuse to rest. And this is kind of unrelated, but I want to mention it that 2018 was also the year that Jungkook kept mentioning a certain verse in one of his most well-known covers called Working. The verse goes as
제가 좋아하는 가사입니다, 이건.
가사 좋죠.
행복하자 우리 아프지 말고.
행복하자 우리 행복하자 아프지 말고
행복하자 아프지 말고. The reason I'm mentioning this is because back then we knew that it had to be something important, but we didn't know that Taeyang actually had thoughts like this in his mind. So going back and looking at these moments again, you can see how the kind of support that Taeyang and Jungkook have are very subtle to the point that you either have to know the full context or you're not even going to get it, but they're going to understand it themselves. Anyway, back to Blue and its lyric. Taeyang starts by saying that he wants to give someone everything he has, all the colors in the world, but this person is still blue and sad. And the fact that this song is gray and seems to talk about the past, it also seems to say what happened at the part that they had to be separated. That burnout and sadness seem to be the main reason he had to break up or be separated from the person he is going to sing for the rest of this album. Then the lyric continues talking about the stars Taeyang borrowed from the moon, and interestingly, in Still With You that I brought up a while back, two of the verses talk about the moon, that is a symbol of Jungkook himself, crying because he can't stay with the person he wants in the daytime like the stars. The part of the lyric is very important because he actually brought it up in one of the episodes of In the Soup and asked Namjoon to help him write a very nice lyric that would match with what he has in mind. Apparently, it was supposed to be about moon carrying the way of the sky, and if moon wouldn't light the sky, why would people even look up? That was the kind of concept he was going for. But then Namjoon brought up that stars have to be around the moon as well, and then Jungkook ended up adding that part about the stars as well. So seeing the same concept in Blue, and how Taeyang says that he ends up taking those stars from the moon, and then the moon will be the only thing in the sky that people will look up to, but it still is not enough for this person to stop being blue. It's just so fascinating to me. The lyric in Blue says that these days this person's sigh is sinking Taeyang too. He wished this person would talk to him and let him be close to him, but this person continues remaining blue or sad. I'm gonna take you back to 2020 when COVID broke out. They also had a very tough time. Jungkook was caught in a certain bar with his friends, and Dispatch also covered the whole story. Jungkook had to test for COVID and stay in quarantine alone for a very long time, and once he could actually get out, they had to film for their festa. And that's exactly when Taeyang and Jungkook both sent each other these letters. Both of them were asking each other that they wish the other person could open up more and lean on the other person more often. In other words, Taeyang and Jungkook were working on these songs during the same timeline, and Blue's lyric is literally saying the same thing as we're reading in these letters. Anyway, let's move on to Love Me Again. This song happened after the separation, in the time Taeyang must have felt like he was mourning for that relationship. He's thinking that he is left behind, he can't even think of the memories anymore because it is taken away with the person that left him behind, but he just can't let that person go. He's asking this person to tell him if he ever regretted the breakup and wants to get back to him. Then he starts sharing his thoughts and how he can't stop thinking about this person, about how this person is, where he is, what he's doing, who he's with, and that without this person, Taeyong is just lost. He wishes this person could love him again because he doesn't want anyone else. There is just a lot of jealousy involved with both parties in the song, because even further on, he asks the person if it's just Taeyong himself, if the person he broke up with is okay with Taeyong being with other people. He says that it's not okay. He said he's alright, but it was all just a lie. He's asking this person to stop leaving him and love him again. From what I'm seeing, this song seems to be about the incident that started from 2017 or 2018, and then the journey it had until 2020, which was when Taeyang started to work on this album. One thing you need to know is that Taeyang is talking to someone in these songs, and what I find interesting is that Taeyang mentioned over and over that he recorded this song in Jungkook's house, and Jungkook actually helped them with the song and told them how and what kind of approach he needs to take with this. Even if we ignore the theory about their separation on 2017 and how Jungkook literally once said he wanted to give Taeyong a song with the name Let's Break Up in 2016, another reason this song just gives me so much taekook vibes is because those years, the jealousy between them was just very visible. That's why a lot of people actually got into the fandom, because those jealousy moments was what caught them off guard. But it also looked like they weren't actually communicating with each other about it back then. So it actually very fits with the whole concept of Love Me Again. And that's exactly what I'm trying to go for, because we can't really get too deep into the lyrics. At the end of the day, Taeyang did not write them himself, but he accepted them. He actually resonated with them based on his personal experiences. And that's what we're going for, the vibe he got, the thing he wanted to portray. And that vibe, that concept actually fits with taekook very well, in my opinion. I'm trying to keep everything short and stick to the topic. So if you're new and confused about the timeline I'm explaining with 2017, 2016, or even 2018 or further on, please feel free to check the videos I've made about their timeline, with the year or without the year. Those are also all voiceovers, so it's very easy for you to understand better in that way. What I love is that while Taeyang is singing I Wished You Could Love Me Again in the song, coincidentally or not, Jungkook sings, I'll be loving you right 7 days a week.
I wish you would love me again. I'll be loving you right 7 days a week.
It's not even exactly that song, because every time you actually listen to some of the songs that Taeyang is producing or releasing, they are always looking for ways to gain comfort and ask the other person to stay with him, love him. And when you listen to other songs from Jungkook, like Seven, like Still With You, or even Stay, he's always talking about staying and still being in love with someone and taking care of them. It almost feels like reading two similar conversations, a back and forth between two people, sometimes when you put their songs together. Anyway, so if we put everything we gathered so far, Taeyang is thinking of someone in a rainy day. He misses them. On Blue, it says that he parted ways with them because no matter how he tried or what he would give to this person, it just didn't work out. They were just too sad to make their relationship work. On Love Me Again, he wishes they could make it work again and love each other again, and confesses that he really loves them and needs them and is lost without them. Then we get to slow dancing. In slow dancing, he is asking for a second chance for dancing and romancing, and in the song, he actually asks the person to stay with him again. One part of the lyrics that a lot of you are probably waiting for me to explain is when he says, "Turning me up and back off like this. What do you want? Do you not like this? Stop teasing me, girl. Now you made me leave my heart out here." If you really listen to the lyrics, this part is not even the romantic part of the song. This girl is pushing him around with the dance moves, trying to dance. The dance moves for both of them are so different that Taeyang asks, "What do you want? Do you not even like this?" And then he asks her if she's just teasing him because it's not working out. And now, because of that, Taeyang's heart is not even into this dance anymore. She steps on him and he tries to lift her, but then they have to go for someone new. I'm gonna read the lyric one more time, and I need you to really pay attention to what it's saying. "Turning me up, back off like this." Again, this is a dance move. They're backing off, they're turning up. "What do you want? Do you not like this?" He's asking why is it not working out? Why doesn't she even liking it? "Stop teasing me, girl. Now you made me leave my heart out here." Again, he's talking about not really having his heart into this because apparently he thinks this is just her teasing him. If anything, I think the use of the feminine pronoun for this part is to show a kind of relationship he also tried, but the tone never matched. So he had to find a new partner he could ask to dance with. That girl pronoun seemed to make a lot of people so sure that he must have been talking about a female lover. But I need you to understand a few things. We're talking about the same person who couldn't release his song for 3 years, who still hasn't released a song for Christmas because apparently it was too weird for him to sing a love song with another guy. And you actually expect him to not use a feminine pronoun just to throw people off, especially right before enlisting for his military service. Even he said that he was trying to show himself to us through this album as much as he could. I don't know how else to put it, but it was supposed to be 8 tracks, not 5 tracks. We got 5. Why do you think that is? Also, even LGBT artists use feminine or masculine pronouns despite having a different kind of sexuality, especially before coming out. If you listen to artists like Demi Lovato, Halsey, Miley Cyrus, and even more, you might not even actually think that they're queer. I remember trying to talk to someone about Cold for Summer and how, to me, as a queer person, the song was just clearly LGBTQ plus related and coded. But people actually wanted to hear a woman or a feminine pronoun to be convinced that it was related to that. It's all about the context, and if you actually pay attention to the context of where he used that feminine pronoun in, it's the only part of the song that is not romantic and is literally pointing out to moving on from someone to someone else. It actually reminds me of how Jungkook also had to sing "Hair" when he was singing the latter part in 7. But on the only day Taeyang actually went to see him on the stage, he changed it to him.
Hit me up and I'ma try. You make mothers feel like weekends. I make her never think about like weekends. I make him never think about cheating. Mondays feel like weekends. I make him never think about cheating.
But in Taeyang's situation, he doesn't even need to change it because in the lyric itself, he's describing dancing with someone only to realize his heart is not into it. And then after they change, he says, maybe we could be slow dancing. Some of you might be saying that I'm analyzing too much, but I'm actually not because Taeyang himself said that he analyzed the song with Jungkook when he was recording it.
종국이한테 맨 처음에 이 분석을 조금 같이 해보고 싶다 해서 종국이 집에서 녹음을 한 적이 있어요.
So not only he recorded Love Me Again in Jungkook's house and had his help, he also analyzed Slow Dancing with Jungkook and then he performed it. So they knew exactly what they were saying. I already talked about this when I was talking about Love Me Again too. But we can't really get too deep into the lyric anyway because Taeyang didn't write these songs. We're just trying to get the actual concept he was trying to portray through the lyrics. So the energy, what is the image we think of when we think about this song? And when we talk about the concept itself, which is slow dancing with someone, the concept is actually a taekook concept, something that actually happened during 2020. Reminder, Taeyang started working on this album on that year. When they had to perform for Grammy and went to the States, Jungkook caught COVID and he had to be quarantined again. He ended up posting something on his Instagram just to cheer everyone up, and he even danced in front of the camera. Taeyang commented that Jungkook is one of the strongest people he knows. All BTS members wanted to go to a concert. Taeyang could go with them, but he didn't go with them. Instead, he went to a bar where everyone were dancing with their partners. He filmed himself dancing alone and posted it on Instagram. Jungkook commented and laughed, and they actually went to the concert that Taeyang missed together with Hoseok after he got better. And on their next concert, they slow danced together on the stage. So now that we've come this far, let's focus on the concept and also the lyric of the last song of the album called For Us. The song says that someone left him behind in his house and they both gave each other their best shot, but it breaks his heart the way everything happened. And then he says that now he is in California waiting for him to change his mind. California is actually important. It's not just a lyric for some reasons. One of the reasons is because after Taeyang actually came and said that he was going to release his album, out of nowhere Jungkook came back to Twitter and he posted these pictures, and one of the pictures is from stage 33, which is located in California. They've had very bold moments in Los Angeles and California, so in order to avoid taking too much of your time, I'm not gonna get too much into it, but this is the most important thing I had to bring up for this verse. So in the song For Us, he is finally confessing that there's no more time to wait. He needs to let this person know that he wants them to stay together and he will wait for them no matter how long he has to wait. One thing I want to mention about the lyric is that when Taeyang is singing the part that says, I need to let you know that, he actually sings it with so much air and with a very strong sound that it sounds like I need to let him know that. They've actually analyzed the songs and went through them over and over, so I refuse to believe that he did that without noticing how it would sound like to the listeners. We don't know what happens after all these confessions. We don't know the other songs that were originally supposed to be in the album. Maybe they would explain how things would go. But I find it so interesting how there were signs of Jungkook in every single concept of this album. Now that we're done with the concept and the lyric, I want to focus on the music videos themselves and the symbols I think they used in them. Rainy Days starts with a quote in the start that says, "When you listen very carefully, loops go wheeling, cozy and stuck." It gives us the impression that they are going to go back and forth with time a lot during the music video because this whole thing is just a loop. The song itself is also a loop, and the moments we see in the screen happen to follow a loop as well. We hear the sound of texting, just like the lyric talks about waiting for someone to text. And then we see the next moment that Taehyung is laying on a mattress on the floor. It kind of cracked me up because it reminded me of the mattress Jungkook had on the floor, and we actually saw it on one of the episodes of Bon Voyage. He's kind of famous for that. Taehyung checks the clock next to him, and the clock shows 4 and 5. April 5th. Can you guess what day that represents? Yes, you got it right. That's Taekook Day, the day we all celebrate Taekook every year. He looks at his side. Someone must have been there, but they are not there anymore. So Taehyung sadly just presses his forehead on the pillow. He sniffs a piece of clothing next to him and then throws it away. But then when he goes to brush his teeth, he changes his mind, comes back, wears it, and falls back asleep on the mattress. One thing I need to mention is that what Tae is wearing, that jacket, is not a dress. A lot of people called it a dress. It's not a dress, and it's not a feminine cloth. We see a view of out of his house and see the beds kind of forming a V shape together. It shows that everything you actually see, every detail you see in this music video was already pre-planned. Taehyung comes back with a shopping bag. His clothes are different. It's, again, talking about the loop. It's showing the time differences. So it can either be the future or it can be the past before he was actually left behind. He grabs some food, starts cooking. There is also a note on the fridge, but most of the notes and writings that we see in this music video, they're just very hard to read or even notice. We see Yeontan, actually Rocky, cosplaying as Yeontan, which is very interesting knowing the situation that happened with Taehyung and the silly rumors just a while back, and the way it was all about whether it was cosplayers or not. Even though he just cooked, the plates are empty. Taehyung actually had a to-do list in his album, and one of the things that he mentioned doing was eating the food that Jungkook actually gave us the recipe for, and he's the one who always cooks it for him. Without his lover, the plates are empty, I guess. It seems like we see a memory from the part through Yeontan's eyes. In the memories, Taehyung was smiling more, talking more. But then we go back to the current time, even though the clothes are still the same. And Taehyung is sitting with his phone waiting for a text. The sugar he tries to pour in the plate also goes backward, showing that the time is going back again. And then it goes forth again. Like I said, it's a loop, so we keep going back and forth with time in almost every music video. We see Taehyung with his first clothes again, doing some daily chores, like studying, working with his laptop, and so on. Taehyung is almost falling asleep in front of the TV, and he's wearing a different shirt again. That's when we see three different things on TV. Ships, a fox, and a rose, even though they're from different shows, but the three of them together, along with the planets or the planet-shaped things we see all over the house, they all actually are key parts of a very famous story called The Little Prince. And I think the concept of Little Prince really fits the story Taeyang was also trying to represent. To add context to what I'm saying, Little Prince is about a little boy with a very small planet with only a rose and 3 volcanoes, one instinct. Because of how small the planet is, he can watch the sunrise and sunset many times a day. The rose also seems to be very special to him, and it seems to be one of a kind because he has never seen a flower like that anywhere, and he's always been in his own planet anyway. The rose, though, is kind of spoiled and kind of makes the little prince feel underappreciated. He decides to go somewhere else, find new people, and be around better people. Before going, the rose tells him that it actually cared about him and starts being more sentimental and emotional, but tells him to just leave if he wants to leave because the rose doesn't want to hold him back. The little prince ends up going through different places. None of them are better than the one he came from for him. And the more he goes around, the more he misses the rose. He ends up finding out that there are a lot of roses in other planets like Earth, but he still misses the one he left behind. There is also a fox in the story, and the fox tells him the importance of being tamed, how things can be special once you bond with them. And in the end, the little prince goes back to his own planet for the flower because no other place makes him feel better. The main point of the story is that it is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. It's talking about love. The reason I think it really fits with the whole concept Taeyang was going for is because just like the little prince, he also starts off by not being happy with someone, but then he starts missing them to the point that he tries to live through different lives, create different lives, clone himself to cope, but at the end, he just wants to go back to them. The rose in the TV ends up opening up and closing, again indicating that the time is going back and forth. And in the past, Taeyang was happily sleeping on the same mattress with the same jacket he sniffed before. That's when he starts creating so many clones himself. You can even see the word clone on the project he was working on. He is filled with pictures of himself and parts of himself. He looks in the mirror and makes the same models that would look like him. There are scripts written all over the wall, but it's not really visible enough for us to say what they're saying. Then he starts drawing what seems to be an alien in what seems to be a neo-expressionism sort of art, which is meant to show certain aspects of people and situations bolder. It's actually an art style Taeyang has liked for many years, and he even draws with the same art style on some of his clothes. Taeyang used to be called an alien by everyone, so it's more like he's reflecting on himself based on his past. He also draws that with a bucket. Bread is usually a representation to the main source of survival or life, but it could also have different meanings to Taeyang. Just a while ago, Jungkook was talking about it through a comedian and said that people should be careful not to bite down a baguette with their front teeth in Paris because it can break their teeth. I personally think by using the bread, he was given life, because bread represents life, to the vision of himself he was creating based on people's perception. This scene is actually very similar to a scene from The Truman Show. He was a man living in a movie without knowing people were watching him. In one scene, he grabs a soap and starts drawing himself like an alien who wants to take over the planet. Now the same loop we saw starts playing on Taehyung's TV while Taehyung himself just falls asleep. Moving on to the Blue music video, we see another music video where the time goes back and forth a lot. Also, the gray visuals makes it seem like we're looking at the past. If we edit the music video in order instead of going back and forth, he just gets in his car, drives somewhere, keeps calling a person to pick up, but they don't pick up. So he gets out of his car, knocks on the door, they don't answer. He looks under a pot for keys. He doesn't find any. A guard comes. They have the keys. He wonders if he should follow them. Then he ends up following them, but the further he goes, the more he gives up. Then in the end, he sits on a swing and someone brings Yonton to him. So he was just trying to contact someone, but the other person didn't even show up. But in the end, they gave him his dog back. The house also has a lot of flowers in front of it, but Taehyung doesn't really pay attention to them. I actually think the whole music video is kind of referencing to Taehyung's Inner Child song. If you check the lyric of that song, you will see that he's talking about chasing something in a gray street, knocking on a door. It talks about thorns and roses and things changing despite the difficulties. That song was also about his past and inner child and his innocence and how hard it was for him to go from that child to who he is now, and trying to comfort himself and say that even though it was so hard in the past, things has changed, we have changed, and things are better now. Another aspect of the Little Prince story was also about the innocence of a child and coming in terms with the differences of them and grown-ups. Another thing I want to mention in this music video is that Taehyung's clothes look like a rock star and a singer. So it shouldn't be strange that the next song, Love Me Again, happens to be Taehyung singing. The first thing you notice when you open the video is the countdown that goes from 3 to 1. If you're familiar with the old karaoke boxes, the countdown starts from 5, not 3. So seeing 3, 2, 1 in there seems to be put on purpose. I won't bore you to explain the same old 1, 2, 3 theory I've brought for taekook. So if you're new, please just go ahead and check those videos yourselves. You'll understand why these numbers are important to taekookers. In this song, Taehyung is wearing glittery clothes, and the scene itself represents another similar scene from a movie called Velvet Goldmine. The movie is, how do I put it? Consider it an unauthorized fanfiction between David Bowie and Iggy Pop. It's a complicated movie that is just so hard to understand. And like the music videos Taehyung released, they also go back and forth between future and the past. It's almost like you're high on drugs while you're watching that movie. I loved it, but it's just very hard to actually grasp what is happening in the movie. But the most noticeable aspect of it is that the main character wears glittery and feminine clothes and enjoys it. And they are very open about exploring their sexuality and telling it to other people as well, even if the public is not so open about it.
To make love in gay style, and most of these kids just aren't gonna make it. That line, everyone's bisexual, it's a very popular thing to say, right?
I think that if people were to get the wrong impression of me, the one to which you so eloquently referred, it wouldn't be the wrong impression in the slightest. Everybody knows most people are bisexual.
Any more questions? Brian, Maxwell Demon is the story of a space creature who becomes a rock and roll messiah, only to be destroyed by his own success. Are you saying this is your destiny? Are you Maxwell Demon?
Is it your belief that all dandies are homosexual?
Ha! Nothing makes one so vain as being told one is a sinner.
It's interesting to know that David Bowie himself also struggled because of something like this. Because when he came out as a gay person, then he had to change it to a person that is bi, and his sexuality just became too mainstream and distracted people so much to the point that he almost went back to closet. Taeyang actually said that his inspiration for the album, and especially Love Me Again, was David Bowie, which confirmed that the similarities we've seen of him in the music video and the movie I just brought, or David Bowie, are not just a coincidence. Another thing Taeyang kept mentioning was that they had to film this in a cave. He kept emphasizing that they had to do it in a cave. Cave usually represents two things. One is isolation or depression, and the second one comes from Pluto's allegory of cave. It's a very famous philosophical matter. If I were to explain it, imagine a few people are stuck in a cave with a wall in front of them, and they can't even turn back to see what's behind them. But behind them is the entrance of the cave, which has the sun as well. So whatever they see is the shadow that's created in front of the sun and is made in the wall that they can see in front of their eyes. The shadows could even be manipulated by the people that made them stay in that cave. But one day, one of them gets free and gets to go out and see what the world actually is like. In the start, the sun is just too bright, it hurts his eyes, and he's uncomfortable, and he realizes that all his life he was believing in something that was not real because the world is actually very different. But then he starts realizing that it's actually why the world is beautiful. It's the beauty of the world, and there's just so much out there that people don't know. He goes back to the cave to tell his friends about what he found out, but he's not used to the dark anymore, and he doesn't even know how he used to think those shadows were real or how he used to interpret things the way he used to interpret. And when he tries to explain it, he can't, so his friends go ahead and think that he just went crazy after he went out of the cave. This was the way Pluto used to explain his philosophy and show how hard it is to educate some people about philosophical matters or things that some people have seen, and how the real beauty of the world are things that we can't really see with our own eyes. So basically the message is very similar to the message we read in The Little Prince. The most important things are the things that we can't see with our own eyes. If it's still so complicated for you, I can say it in anime too. As Hatake Kakashi once said, see beneath the underneath. Just like the other songs, Love Me Again music video also keeps switching between grey to colorful, showing that Taeyang is stuck in time. There are also a few TVs behind him, like the ones he had in the house in the rainy days. It could be implying that he is always being watched on TV by people. His words are seen as just empty karaoke words he's repeating, like the Truman Show he actually referenced before. But there's more to it, and there is an old phone that's actually open on that table. So someone must be listening to Taeyang singing all that song through that phone. Speaking of karaoke, this is also something special to Taekook. We see them do it a lot together, and according to them and the members, they always have karaoke nights together. But even though they want to and have been requested by fans to do karaoke live streams together, Taeyang said that it might be difficult to do it, and he just sighed. It's another thing they can only do alone these days. Let's move on to the next music video. Slow dancing starts with Taeyang and some other people underwater. We can see small shiny dots on their bodies and some jellyfishes behind them. Jellyfishes have a lot of different meanings, from immortality to beauty, to a wake-up call or even regeneration. So it could just be showing a new life, a new world that just became real, just became reality. It's sort of like the music video wants to start a new beginning. It shows a road that is filled with Yontan's face all over it, so we start getting the impression that something is strange. Then we see one of the friends eating flowers. Generally, eating flower is a symbol of sexual frustration, and in this context, it is used to show the flaws of a world that is meant to be perfect but actually isn't. Then we see them putting on a crown on each other, like they are princes or princesses of their own world. I also think it's kind of another wink to the Little Prince story. Taeyang himself has a card in his mouth. He also used the same card aspect in his new shooting with Dispatch and Deacon. Cards are also how Taeyang promoted Jungkook's 7 for the first time. And Jungkook also did a live stream on his birthday and showed us some card tricks. So cards are actually something that both of them have been doing or paying attention to or playing for some time now. They take a picture together, but then when they see the picture, every single one of them looks like Taehyung. In other words, all of them, girl or boy, they are Taehyung himself. They are the clones Taehyung made in the Rainy Day music video. And then we see that Yeontan's image keeps shining yellow the same way all of them kept shining in the start of the music video. The yellow dots are like the kind of system that is usually used in visual effects and animations, so they can act in a way in the real world and manipulate things in the cyber world. Then we see them all running on the beach, but none of them really looks like Taehyung. But then we see Taehyung as one of the people who was running. Every time he comes up, his shirt, his clothes, all of them are different. First he's wearing a denim, then he's shirtless, then he's wearing a black top. Every single time he's a different person. Then we start seeing fruits all over the place, and we see one of them using coats. Fruits have a lot of different symbolisms. Sometimes they are about abundance, sometimes about fertility. But most well-known theory that a lot of people might be thinking about is that when you say someone is fruity or like mention fruit, you're actually talking about being in the LGBTQ plus community or being kind of homosexual. It was even mentioned in a part of a Velvet Goldmine movie, which Taeyong referenced in his other song.
What about your fans? Aren't they likely to get the wrong impression?
And which wrong impression is that?
Well, you're a blinking fruit.
Well, thank you, sir, and no. It doesn't concern me in the least.
It's also interesting to note that pretty much everyone in the music video that are meant to play as Taehyung are part of the LGBTQ plus community. The next scene goes back to Taehyung's apartment in the rainy day, and we see him on TV, and then we see the world Taehyung created, even the people he included in that world, or even the designs he was making for the creatures he would put in that world, like the slimes or the butterflies. In the next scene, we see Taeyong in his car again, and the cloud up there looks like a dog. This time, though, it doesn't exactly look like Yeontan. It looks like a different dog. And if you ask me, it kind of looks like Bam. Keep in mind that Taeyong already said that he raised Jungkook's dog, Bam, so it is possible that he would use that dog in his music video because he has raised that dog before. In the next scene, they start catching butterflies and other creatures Tae made in the other world. Catching butterflies are usually symbols of doing things without a purpose or wasting time. And coincidentally, that's exactly when he starts singing about the girl part. But it's also another symbol from the Little Prince because he also used to catch butterflies with his rose. We see Taeyong designing everything, and then the scene changes to what seems to be two sticker figures dancing together. It could be inspired by NGC 3227 and NG 3226 galaxies that are always in a never-ending move or dance like together. When the vision gets more clear, there are two people in the middle on a small boat while everyone around them are just swimming alone. Then we see Taeyong in the middle and the boat is away, and then we don't see Taeyong at all. It's like he keeps switching between one person to another. Yeontan is watching him do all of this, even sail the same boat that is meant to take Taeyong and his friends, aka himself and himself and himself, to watch the aurora in the sky. In the episode of Suichita that we actually talked about, he also mentioned that he wants to see aurora with the members once they're all done with their military service. So it's actually a personal wish Taeyong has. The ship itself also reminded me of another one of Taeyong's songs, Sweet Night. There was a verse that said, "We were ships in the night," and it's actually about the ships that have to go to opposite directions, but they still need to move past each other. So when they move past each other, they're gonna meet and make memories, but at the end of the day, they can't go to the same direction. They're going to go to two different parts. And in this music video, there's only one ship. So it's like the ships never actually met in this reality. On the next scene, we see countless of TVs showing him in different places, in different universes, doing different things, while the dots on Taeyong's face and his movements actually changes the movements in the TVs. I don't know how much you know about animations, but this is exactly how it works. Every time they want to move something in an animation, they have to joint them and put little dots on every spot that they want to move. So that's how the statue actually starts moving. And with the dots that Taeyong has on himself and the movements that he puts on the TV, he can manipulate how his character is going to be in each TV and in each universe. And in each universe, he's a different person. In one, he is a sailor. In one, he is a dancer. In one, he is just hanging out with some friends to see the world or just swim on the beach. But in none of them, he's actually a singer like he was in the other music videos we've watched. We also see the map of the place Taeyong created, and it looks like a heart. We can see Yeontan's image in it too. Just like the end of Rainy Days, Taeyong falls asleep in the dream world he created in Slow Dancing too, and then we go back to the real world. The car Taeyong was traveling with his friends with just moves on, and Taeyong is sitting with Yeontan. But then they shine with yellow dots again, implying that even the real world is not exactly real, and it's just a loop of his imagination. Kind of like the end of Inception movie when they assumed that they went back to the real world, but there was just one sign that said they weren't. That's also why we see Yeontan's picture on the wall, like we saw it in the beginning of the music video on the road. Okay, now that we're done with those, we can focus on the last music video for us. In the start, it started as if it was being played from an old TV, but then it kept changing to a modern one. It gave the impression like they were just using some behind the scenes, but then we see Taeyong like he's just giving an interview, but then he starts singing the song, and then he goes back to answering whatever the interviewer was talking to him about. So the other moments seem like they're just his memories and his wishes. How he tries to cope with wanting to be with someone he can't have. It's like he is a singer, But even when he's working, answering questions, doing interviews, in his mind there's this song, "Hey, I wish we could be together." And that's all he can think about. But in reality, he's just answering questions that are not even related to that. And meanwhile, he's also thinking about all his memories. We see sketches of the water, the cave, the butterflies, probably from the scripts they had to plan everything from because they had to make it exactly as Taeyang wanted it. But then we see Taeyang looking at some guys next to a poster with hairstyles for dogs. But they're cutting their hair based on the hairstyles that dogs are supposed to have. And that's how we're introduced to a new theory that actually can change or her perspective about the whole album. And the theory says that the dogs in the music videos are not actually dogs, and the humans are not actually humans either. Yeontan is not meant to play just a dog in Taeyang's music video. He's supposed to be a human. That's why humans are also getting their hairs trimmed based on the hairstyles that dogs are supposed to have. That's also why Taeyang put the plates without any food in front of Yeontan and even gave him some spoon and chopsticks, even though technically Yeontan doesn't have hands and can't really eat like that. And it's also why we saw a lot of flashbacks through Yeontan's eyes as if Taeyang was talking to his lover, and also why he kept talking to Yeontan in the way he was. Also, while he was searching for a world with his lover, Yeontan was there watching all alone and never truly left his side. Yeontan could be another person, or it could even just represent Taeyang's own innocence, just like in Inner Child. But he is also the symbol of love in all these music videos. Then we continue seeing the behind the scenes, the moments Taeyang keeps talking to other people and keeps filming or practices the dance parts. The last scene ends with Taeyang going around and spreading papers with V written on them. And we can see some graffitis and some sort of art that also look like Neo Expressionism style arts on the walls, and also some spoilers. For example, the 3D on the wall. As you've probably heard, Jungkook just released the trailer for his upcoming single 3D. It's very hard to say what else he was trying to spoil through those walls because it's just so hard to read them. But I'm pretty sure that if we go back to them after some time, we're going to see way more things were written on there. We just couldn't really see them. So to wrap it up and say what we saw in all those music videos, they were about a man struggling with a relationship because they were sad, and then there is a breakup, and then he creates different worlds and possibilities to be happy, almost like the egg theory. And he tries to stay with the person he loves or cope with it, but at the end of the day, he has to go back to reality. And even the thing that he was looking for was truth that was there all along. He just couldn't see it with his eyes, and he had to see it through his heart. This video is packed with theories. Some might be what Taeyang intended for the music video to be, and some might be just a misunderstanding on my part. But it took me days to research everything properly, and I'm sure that there are still so many symbolism that I probably missed. Either way, I really enjoyed the album, and I can see myself listening to it over and over and never get tired. Please continue supporting him and stream his music. This is an album that we are just so lucky to have because it took him years to be able to release it, even if he couldn't release all of it. Let's cherish it. Thank you for sharing your gift with us, Kim Taeyang.
그러고 보면 난 너를 만나 참 많이 변했어 꿈이 생기고 네가 가진 꿈도 이뤄주고 싶었어 진짜 아니야 아직도 나를 그렇게 몰라 너를 가진 사람 나밖에 없어